Hello everybody, Larry Lawton here. I'm a former jewel thief, known as America's biggest jewel robber, and robbed between 15 and 18 million dollars up and down the east coast of the United States. This is Ask Me Anything. And here we are live from Key West, and here's some questions. First question, how did you get started in the business of specifically jewel thieving? The first jewelry store robbery was a setup. It was a jewelry insurance job. The owner wanted his store robbed. The mob set this up for me, and I knew where the main stuff was going to be in the safe. I knew there was only one person in the store. I knew the owner wasn't going to be there. I did have to set the robbery up like it was a legitimate robbery, which it was, because the person in the store didn't know. And they couldn't know, obviously, because when the police came, they would, maybe figure that out. But so the first store was a jewelry setup, and that's what got me into the jewelry business, seeing, wow, there's a lot of money in this business. And I don't recommend it. Believe me, I don't recommend it. Next question. What does it feel like the first few days in prison? Wow, great question. The first few days in prison, you're in shock. Actually, it takes about 1.5 to 2 years before you even know you're in prison, when you had a long stretch like I had. So you lose 2 years. It's a survival mode. Your whole body goes into it, your brain goes into it, and you're figuring out the system. Your life has changed. It's upside down. It's a whole different world. So the first few days are really shock. Just shock. Next question. How did the scenario of being caught cross your mind? Did the thought of being caught motivate you, give you a thrill, or did it cause you to consider quitting? I never pictured even getting caught. I knew I'd get caught. Everyone knows they're going to get caught. Anybody who's got half a brain knows they're going to eventually get caught. You keep doing it. Even the FBI asked me, why did you keep doing it? You had money. You were living the life. You had your own limousine. You had horses. You had a boat. You did everything. You had homes. Why did you keep going? It was such a thrill. There was no question. It's an adrenaline rush. It's hard to explain. I've done every drug in the book, and there's no drug that can compare to the thrill of robbing something. I was a professional. I was driven by completing the crime, getting the money, and had an end goal. I wouldn't hurt somebody or just do it for a thrill. I did it for a reason. It was money. And I was motivated that way. And I'm not proud of that. It is what it is. Ask me anything. This is what it is. I've always been curious about how plausible it would be to pull off a jewelry heist during a blizzard, utilizing a snowmobile as a getaway vehicle. Is this something you considered during your career as a jewel thief? In your opinion, would this be a viable option, or do you think I'm watching too many movies? I don't know if you're watching too many movies. Have fun watching movies. No, I don't think it'd be plausible at all. Where would you go? In a snowmobile? How about snow tracks? I think they could follow you. I don't think anything like a getaway like that. You have to blend in, and I don't know how many snowmobiles would be going on. I did rob jewelry stores during weather related, meaning if it was raining hard or something like that, that was actually good for me, because there's less people running around, walking around. Cops might be at an accident somewhere of that nature. So the elements do matter. But as a blizzard, it didn't say, okay, I'm gonna wait for a blizzard to happen. And the snowmobile, nah, that's James Bond stuff. That's not reality. But keep watching movies. Have fun. Next question. What are the red flag signs that something valuable could be easily stolen? That's funny. Whenever I walk down a street or I'm in a city and I see a jewelry store, I look at what they're doing wrong and I say, wow, that place could be hit. I don't look at things and say, oh, I could steal that. I had opportunities to steal Rembrandts, Picassos, Van Goghs. Artwork. There was millions and millions of dollars. I never robbed it because you can't get rid of it. I do look at the opportunities for, could this store be robbed? Because they're making a lot of mistakes. And it kind of, a little bell goes off and say, wow, he's vulnerable. Next question. Do you still have any of the money left over, or did it get taken when you were caught? Not only do I not have any of the money, I got out of prison $67,000 in debt. The federal government will take everything you have, which rightfully so. I'm not pissed at anybody. Obviously, all my money was gotten illegally. so I don't deserve the money. Then you have what they call restitution. You have to pay back some people. Most criminals don't have money left over. That's an old fallacy. Oh, stash the money. Of course you wish you would have stashed money, but nobody does. In fact, I don't know if you know John Gotti. John Gotti was the famous gangster. I actually knew him. And John Gotti once told all his gangsters, if you ever have a 401k plan or start saving money, I'm going to kill you. Gangsters never retire. And if you have more and more money, you have more and more reason to rat. And I didn't rat. People say always, oh, you must have stashed a lot of money. No, I didn't. I wish I did. I hate to say that. I wish I did, but I didn't. And I got out of prison real poor. And I work hard now. It's just the way it is in the criminal world. What was going through your mind when you were finally caught? Wow, what a question. I guess relief. You know, a burden comes off you. Although, right, when I first got caught, I didn't know how big they caught me. I didn't know if it was just one robbery and they linked all the other robberies together, because there was between about 20, over 20 jewelry stores I robbed. And I didn't know how much they knew, so I was thinking, oh, I can get bail. My first thought was to get bail and run, but I couldn't get bail. They didn't give me bail, and when they didn't give me bail, it started settling in, and believe it or not, it was a relief. It's kind of hard to you know, what do you mean relief? But it was a relief. Next question. How much did you actually profit from $15 million in jewels? I assume stolen goods carry just a fraction of that value. You're right, about 30%. So if I robbed $1 million ring or $1 million score, I'd walk away with about $300,000, depending. Some pieces are more negotiable when you know what you're doing. Obviously, like Rolex watches, like a $5,000 Rolex watch, maybe $6,000, I would get $2,000. Every Rolex I brought in, I would get $2,000. So if I brought 50 Rolexes in, I got $100,000. You know, stolen property always has a less value, but you need the fence to get rid of whatever it is. A fence is a person who takes stolen goods and gives you cash for them, and then he resells them to another person, or it could be anything. It could be steaks, it could be cars, it could be a glass window on a car. There's fences for everything. Next question. Were any of your heists anything like the movies? What was the closest it got to that? My getaway on the last heist where I was shot and my partner was shot was a movie getaway. Like the shots were flying and we're squealing away in a car. So it was crazy. I did set up some other heists, thank God I didn't commit them, that were like a movie as well. So I totally understand that part of it. I'd say the getaway and the last heist, and if you're listening to my book, you'll hear about that in the book. If you listen on Spotify or iTunes, it's pretty wild. And the getaway is a movie getaway of all things. Next question. If you have the chance to do it all over again, but this time only get 6 years, would you do it again? That's the easiest question I got. Absolutely not. I wouldn't do it again. No time is good enough for me to lose my family. When I went to prison, I had a 15-month-old daughter and a 6-year-old son, and I lost their lives, and it's my fault. I got out of prison, and my daughter was 13, and my son was 18. That's tough, man, and I would never do it. Now I have grandkids. You know, being a criminal, and people ask me all the time, what would it take for you to get back in the game, or how much would it take for a robbery? And I tell them, there is no amount. Because somebody's going to rat on you, you're going to get caught eventually, and why are you going to take that chance? Time is tough, man, and what I'm learning as older I get is time is precious. Don't waste 6 years of your life for anything. If you live to 80 years old, that's about 8% of your life. 6 years. You willing to give up 8% of your life? That's a tough one. And no, don't say, yeah, I'd do it for $1 million or $5 million. Think about it. Once you're there, first of all, you might never get out of that prison. You might die in prison. And you're going to have experiences that are horrible. I had to fight for my life, and I've been stabbed twice. I stabbed people. I could have got a life sentence. So the more you think about it, no way. There's no amount would do that for me. How did you feel during the robbery? Did it spike adrenaline, or did you manage to remain calm? Also, How did you feel after every successful robbery? Great question. The adrenaline spike is off the charts. It's the people who control that adrenaline who become successful criminals. I controlled adrenaline very well. I control emotions very well. Was able to act, if you want to call it that, beforehand, so the person in the store didn't realize, hey man, what's this guy up to? He's nervous. I was able to keep calm and get everything under control, so it's harder than you think. And afterwards, I always wanted to be a fly on the wall. I always wanted to know what was going on, how long it took the person to get there, the cops, and get out of the stuff. It was one of these things I had, and I couldn't obviously stay around. You know, that's crazy, and never knew. And to this day, I never knew. So, but afterwards, you do feel good. There's no question. There's a calm. But then when you got $1 million in jewelry in the trunk of your car, it's kind of like, I guess, I hate to say it, rewarding that you knew you beat them, you beat the system, and you got away. So that's the feeling. That's being honest. Next question. What do you think of the recent Germany heist? Well, that's a good one. First of all, total professionals, and a little bit pretty bad security by the museum. $1.4 billion was stolen of some rare jewels, dating way back into the probably 1600s. Some of it's priceless. They put an estimate of $1.4 billion, but they really don't know how much. Total professionals. They knew when to do it. They knew to shut the power off and the whole power grid. They also knew that the glass that this stuff was behind was not bulletproof, which I'm really surprised. So somebody dropped the ball on the security in that place. So the hardest part's going to be is how are they going to get rid of that kind of stuff? It's all signature pieces, so you can't just sell it. You have to break it up into smaller pieces and take all the gems and stuff that are out of these exotic swords and a crown and that kind of stuff. And I think it's going to be hard to get rid of. I mean, how do you get rid of jewels like this? So this is a heist that they planned very well, and they probably had an out before they stole it. Most professional criminals do. So I think that was a pretty good question. Another question. Why steal jewelry? Why not collectibles? And why did you specifically choose to be a jewel thief? Well, I didn't specifically become a jewel thief. I was a gangster, and my first jewelry store robbery was actually a setup. The owner wanted the insurance money, so when he got the money, I got the jewels, and that turned into a lot of money. And then I said, wow, I can do this and make money. Why not collectibles? Well, even cash is king. I always say that, but you know, you can't rob $1 million in cash. It's not as easy as you would think to get cash like that. Where $1 million in jewelry, or a very large number of jewels, you can steal and get away with it. Case in point, they stole $136 million in jewelry in Cannes, France, a few years back. Think about it. You couldn't steal $136 million in cash. How would you lug it around? You can't do that. Obviously, the jewels was in a briefcase, and he stole $136 million. So collectibles, obviously, they can be stolen, but it's a lot different. You might need a truck. You might need a different getaway. Where you're going to get rid of them. Everything has to have a fence. But jewelry picked me. I could say I don't think I planned to go be a jewel robber. I ended up becoming a jewel robber. Next question. How did you manage to evade the FBI for years? What led them to catching you in the end? Well, I don't know if you can call it evading them. I didn't know how hard they were on my tail. They did know my MO, my modus operandum, so they knew that I'd go in acting like a builder in the area where I was, and I was looking for a jewelry ring for my wife, and I had to upgrade it, and so I had a same MO, and then the FBI caught on to that, and then how did they catch him? Let me tell you how good the FBI is. The FBI used to flood the area where I was at, and they would actually go to all the jewelry stores in the whole area and interview other jewelers that I might have cased. And they'd also take the cameras out of all the stores, the Wawas or 7-Elevens, anything in that area. They would take those and they would look at them and see if there was some kind of similarity between crimes. And how the FBI caught me is one of the jewelry stores that I did not rob, that was trying to sell me a ring, actually got my license plate. and they got my license plate, and the car wasn't registered to me. It was a rent-a-car. It wasn't registered to me. It was registered to a guy who worked with me, not in the jewelry business. It was my neighbor, and he would rent the car. He was 350 pounds, so I wasn't 350 pounds. They go, wow, this isn't him. But they looked at the co-driver, and once they showed pictures of me to the jewelry store, the one I robbed, the other ones, they picked and said, wow, it's him. And then they started piecing together the other robberies, and like I said, the FBI is good. Next question. Presumably, you have stopped stealing. I have. Not even thinking about it. What keeps you from doing it again? Is it simply because you were caught and you know you'd be caught again? Or did you come to some moral epiphany and did the thrill go away? I'm genuinely curious to know what would make a successful criminal stop. I think we all change. I don't know if it's a moral epiphany. I think everybody changes. You're not the same person you were when you were 20, when you're 30. You're not the same person you were at 40 when you were 30, and so on. And I think people evolve. I always say I think criminals stop being criminals because they grow out of them. I don't believe in long prison sentences to reform people. I think time reforms people, and here's what I mean. I think if a person does a crime, they should do 3 years. 3 years. People go, what do you mean? I said, yeah, he sells 5 kilos of cocaine. He should get 3 years. Maybe the 3 years will open his eyes that this isn't the life he wants to keep, and he loses enough in that time. But you got to do 3 years. The next crime he commits, he gets 7 years. Does a whole 7 years. If it doesn't get to him, he's getting older. He doesn't change. He already did 10 years in prison. He doesn't change. He gets out, he does another crime. Not a life sentence. It doesn't do anybody. Unless it's, wait, let me emphasize that. Unless it's a violent crime where you're hurting people. Of course, rape and murder and stuff of that nature is off the charts. They should do certain things to people. The next crime he commits, he sells drugs, he should get 10 years. Now he's done 20 years in prison. By that time, he's either too old to do it, he's lost all his connections, everything's gone. And society is not at risk for anything bad. And the person changed, and we're not housing a person for life in a prison that costs $28,000 to $30,000 a year to house one inmate. Doesn't make sense to me, and I think we can complete and the same objectives without destroying so many lives, and our system could be better. Another question. What's non-jewelry thing you saw that you wanted to keep for yourself during a heist? Well, that's funny, you know. That's really a pretty good question. Whenever I went into a jewelry store and I robbed the jewelry store, I took a clock. I know it sounds crazy, but I took a clock. Like they'd have like an antique clock. I'm talking the small ones, not like a big piece, of course. Small one, or a different kind of clock that was in there. It could be like a designer clock with a little bell in it or something. And I always took those clocks, and I don't know why I took those clocks, but I did. And it's something I think about often now. And I said, why did I steal a clock? But it's something I did do. Here's another question. You had an impressive skill set. How did you build them, and what pushed you into crime? I think organization is my best skill set. Planning everything out obviously is the skill set, but you have to really pay attention to detail. I'm very detail orientated, and that skill set you hone over time, and as you go you become better at it. You understand about casing the place better. You understand who's coming and going. You understand if there's any police in the area. What mailman, did he drop off mail at the time? When's the customers coming? All of those things are attention to detail. And I guess my skill set is also nerves. I can handle pressure and nerves very well. Some people can't. A little case in point, I had a guy who said he can work with us and doing a jewelry robbery, and not everybody can, thank God. And I'm, like I say, I always say I'm never promoting this. He couldn't do it. He actually panicked. Whenever I even tried a new person to get in this business, I made sure I had a second out so I can cover myself if something went wrong. And sure enough, it did go wrong. He panicked. He was supposed to come around back. He never did. He actually left. You know, some people said, why didn't you kill the guy? Well, and the guy just left you hanging. I kind of had an idea he didn't have the nerve. And it takes a lot of nerve and, I guess, guts. And you have to stay calm under pressure. And then when you can do that, obviously, you become good at whatever you're going to do. Sadly, I picked this profession. I wish I didn't, of course. Next question. What are your thoughts on your actions now? Do you feel reformed? Well, I know I'm reformed. I mean, if you call reform not wanting a crime, trying to help people not commit crimes or get into that business, that's me all the way. I don't want to see anybody get hurt. I don't want to see anybody in this whole world have problems like that. So yes, I'm reformed. I love what I do. I like helping people. Now I'm giving my life to some of these YouTube videos to try to show people how people can change, that people aren't all that bad no matter what they've done in their life. And last question. Was it worth it? Follow up. What do you think you'd have done with your life if you had chosen a different path? You know, nobody's ever asked me that question. That's a great question. Was it worth it? Nothing is worth losing your kids and losing your time the way I did. So no, it's not worth it. Do I regret it? I don't regret much in life, and I don't think you should live life in regret. I don't think anybody should. It is what it is. It makes you who you are. Do I wish I can do it differently? Absolutely. I wish I never committed any crimes. What do I think I would have done with my life? That's a great question. I personally would have loved to stay in the Coast Guard for 30 years. I got hurt in the Coast Guard, so I couldn't stay. I would have loved to stay in the Coast Guard. I think that would have been my path, and I would have retired there, or maybe a lawyer. I like the legal profession. I like to try to help people, so I think helping people get less time and stuff like that, I think, is important. Well, I hope you enjoyed me answering these questions, and I think we're opening people's eyes. I'm enjoying communicating with people back and forth. It's a new medium, I guess, to do stuff. And enjoy your life. Thanks for watching again. You can listen to my book being read on Spotify and iTunes. I'm in the Keys. What's bad with that? Key West, Florida, enjoying some R&R. Enjoy your life. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to everybody out there. And stay tuned. We're going to be doing more and more videos. Thanks for watching.